Hey Scott, how are you?
Good, Michael. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Um, we have a lot of stuff this week. We had earnings. So let's begin first of all with the Federal Reserve held steady on rates, despite a lot of pressure on them. They're holding it till the next meeting at least. So that's a important piece of news. I don't know who's going to be the new head of the Fed next time they meet. Jerome Powell's leaving, and there's several candidates. So as soon as we know, we'll let everybody know. The big news this week, in terms of earnings or lack of earnings, is that Microsoft just lost $357 billion in market cap as their stock plunged the most since 2020. It still has 3.22 trillion, but that's a big hunk of change. And the concern seems to be that Microsoft isn't building data centers as quickly enough to meet its need. Uh, and when it comes to allocating computing power, Microsoft's begun prioritizing internal applications, though they aren't breakout hits. So it's pulling, it's sort of reining in now, taking care of its own, and there's some real concern that they're not going to be able to meet demand, uh, even if they do a lot of AI. The second piece of news is Apple. Now there was some concern about Apple because it it's still having trouble doing AI. Though there was a report this week that Apple may be looking into buying a earbud company that it's actually owned by OpenAI. And what OpenAI is doing with hardware is anybody's guess. And it's hard to imagine that a software company could just move into hardware and be able to handle that difference. I mean, we saw it the other way around with uh, hardware companies going into software many years ago. It's the classic example are the early semiconductor companies like Intel going into calculators when they were, when they were basically building chips. It's hard to go to a new industry, and it smacks of desperation. That AI just can't see how it's going to manage its revenue model against competition and everything else. So they're going to do a Hail Mary. And the one thing that is a fit is that this earbud will be AI powered. So I guess that means that you'll be able to talk aloud and look up things, or you could actually ask it to give you conversational information in real time. So maybe you're a young swain and you're talking to a cute young lady, and AI in your ear is telling you what the next line is. It's sort of like Miles Standish back in the Pilgrim days, where he had somebody write his stuff for him as he appealed to a young lady. Maybe that's the future. Maybe that's the killer app that we've all been needing. There's more and more stories of young men not being able to talk to women and all of that. Maybe this is the killer app that will change it all and set off a new baby boom. I don't know.
That's that's asking a lot of an AI device. We'll call it the Cyrano de Bergerac. And first of all, Swain. That's a great word. Haven't heard that in I don't know my lifetime. But it's interesting. OpenAI is apparently working with Jony Ive, obvious
Yeah.
Apple connections, to come up with a hardware device to transmit AI. Apple working with Google and Gemini, and it owns Apple, the transmitting device of all time, the iPhone, which
Yeah.
is blowing out sales as we just saw in the earning report just a few hours ago, as you and I speak on Thursday night. And at the same time, there's competition, there is co-optation. The AI world is companies selling each other's products. It's really, we need to see some more proof, I think, before we can say that there's really a business here other than these companies doing business with each other.
Well, now we know what Jony Ive was doing going over there. It seemed weird that we talked about it at the time. It seemed odd, but now we know. Apparently, this earbud, I mean, the earbud market's really heating up. And this one is a little bit different because it's going to be in the ear, but also outside the ear. So it's a two-piece device, which we haven't seen a lot of success with in the last, we had it with hearing aids, but not this point with earbuds. It'll be interesting to see if the marketplace really will adapt to that again and embrace it. But, Johnny's a hell of a designer. If anybody can do it, it's going to be him. So anyway, Apple blew the doors off. I mean, there was some concerns about the iPhone and getting old and not getting a strong market response. And it's doing great. And Apple stock went up a lot. I mean, they had a real good quarter. And it seems like it hasn't lost a step, even with its problems with AI. And it might be the market is having so many doubts about AI right now that a hardware company that has its own operating system and hasn't fully committed to AI is a safe harbor right now, especially one that's doing really well.
I think it is. I mean, after all, Apple is the delivery service for so many things. And it surprised me a bit that everyone wanted Apple and felt the need to get Apple on the AI bandwagon. We all use social media on our phones, but people weren't like, hey, Apple needs to be a social media company. We hail rideshare on our phones, but people weren't like, hey, Apple needs to do rideshare. The iPhone is really a means to an end for so many different things. Yeah. People go on dating sites on their phones, but Apple doesn't have to have a dating site. So everyone uses AI on their phones. They talk to it, they get answers, they, show it pictures. Why does Apple have to also be an AI company when it is the delivery service for all these things? And I think its deal with Google and Gemini makes so much sense, because let the AI people spend those billions of dollars and figure out AI and fight with each other and come up with whoever's going to survive. Apple is going to do what it does well, which is provide the hardware to get you what you want and allow you to do what you want to do. And that's a really good business model.
Yeah, and I think the Microsoft story underscores the fact that these companies have been living off of the existing installed base of servers and everything else. And they're coming up on a wall. And the wall's server farms, power, and other things, sources of information. I mean, I got a note a few weeks ago asking me to be part of a class action suit. You know about it. Because they had lifted a bunch of stuff from about 8 of my books without compensation. And I thought, they're all getting desperate to find new sources of material for their AI data sets. And that's another early warning that, this thing can't keep growing like this, because they're going to hit walls. Infrastructure walls, content walls, everything else.
Right. I think all of the AI powerhouses are vulnerable to some of those things. And, we've seen it. I mean, the NVIDIA chips or the SanDisk memory chips. I mean, these things are selling like crazy and the stock prices are exploding. But at the same time, people in the background are saying, okay, but what about those things you just mentioned, Mike? What about power? What about, the servers? How are we going to transmit all this stuff? How are we going to make profits on this stuff? And a lot of those questions haven't been asked. But you're also seeing companies buy up I mean, tech companies are buying up power companies like our government is investing in rare earth minerals. I mean, you see this insatiable demand for power, and that's keeping this stuff afloat for a little while. But does it, as you just said, run into a wall at some point?
I mean, they're going to have to build, a nuclear power plant, have one fire up every month, multiple ones. And in the meantime, if it comes down to the population and the server farms, you're going to see some real political action, and especially because it's nuclear. So you have the anti-nuke crowd; they're still around. They celebrate, they celebrated their victory. They're not going to give it up easily. And if people start having brownouts because somebody wants to write a term paper in their college class and use AI, that's going to be a real social, political problem too.
I agree. These things are absolutely going to come home to roost, and the companies are trying to get ahead of it by spending a lot of money. But what if they get ahead of it before we all decide this is what we're going to do and this is what we're going to use? And that's why I think a company like Apple taking a step back and saying, okay, we've got the resources to have Google on board. That can't be too cheap. But at the same time, do we have to really pivot to be an AI company, which is not cheap? It's just surprising that almost like during the dot-com boom, everything had to be .com. Now everything has to be AI, and it's not going to shake out that way. And we've seen this before.
And you can't build a nuclear power plant in this weekend.
Right.
It takes years. It's like a semiconductor fab, and all we need is 1 3-mile island again, and then it becomes a deeply political debate where each side stakes out a position, and then it becomes down to voters. I mean, that's a risky proposition. So I'll be curious how long they can keep up this rate of change. I mean, NVIDIA can keep building chips forever, but will the American public accept that? Is it worth it to get an answer to a question, or have a article written or a letter written with AI in exchange for what's going to be the sacrifices if they occur?
We'll see.
We'll see. Okay, the U.S. dollar just fell to its lowest level in 4 years. And supposedly the administration actually wants a cheaper dollar. I haven't understood the full dynamics of that, but it's interesting. Part of it is, even as the dollar shrinks, gold and silver are being insane. I mean, I think gold has just crossed $5,000 an ounce, and silver has broken $100 an ounce. And there's a couple analysts that are predicting before all this is over, gold could reach $30,000 an ounce. Oh, Bitcoin dropped too. Bitcoin and the dollar have suffered while precious metals, the old fallback position, buy gold when everything's risky. It wasn't that long ago till we were stunned that gold had reached $1,000. And now, a couple years later, maybe a little bit more, 5,000. And going to 25 or 30,000, it doesn't seem insane anymore.
All right. I don't know about that. And I would say, before you use the term Bitcoin and suffering at the same time, as you and I speak, it's something like $87,000 for a single coin that is only valuable because we say it's valuable. Let's not put too much of
but it broke 90,000, and it was looking at it like it was unstoppable to 100K, and now it's retreated a little bit. Yeah,
a little bit. It's still very high, and people are still crazy about it. Gold is interesting when put to the dollar. So a dollar that people are concerned about, so they go to the safe haven of gold. But we've always thought, hey, a strong dollar is good. We think that way as consumers because a strong dollar allows us to buy things, throughout the world. But
Right.
what is Trump's game here, Mike? He has said he wants manufacturing in the U.S. He wants people to buy here, and he doesn't want us buying foreign products. It's America first. A weaker dollar means we can't buy as many products cheaply overseas. Does that lead to us buying here? Maybe so. That seems to be part of the plan. Overall, it doesn't seem like a great idea. We love a strong dollar. It means America is a strong, secure place for the world to invest. And without that, people are fleeing to safe havens like gold. But if the dollar is weak, people will say, maybe I won't shop so much in those countries that we are putting these tariffs on, and I'll have to shop in America. And I think that's part of his goal, to eventually America first everything. Again, I'm not saying that's good economic policy, but it is a policy that is perhaps bringing more dollars here to America, maybe.
Well, I hope it's intentional. I don't want to just be an emanation from everything else going on, and we're going to suffer for it. Not many Americans actually hold passports, so going shopping overseas is typically for the well-off, and they can afford it. Does it increase buying in the U.S.? Probably, I guess, but a weak dollar also has its influence at the macro level between governments. So it'll be interesting to see. Okay, Meta. The stock market decided to reward Meta for its AI work, I guess, including Mark Zuckerberg's white whale of the metaverse. But their stock market went crazy this week, even though he's promised to spend billions on AI, and he's facing lawsuits about social media addiction and claims that they turned off their porn filter and all of that. So is Meta doing that well that the market sees opportunity there that they don't see in Microsoft?
The short answer is yes. Meta is doing two things that the market loves. It's investing in AI, and it's cutting back on the metaverse. It even announced some layoffs in that metaverse project.
But it's still there.
Less spending.
But it's still there.
It's still there. But remember when Facebook stock was $90 a couple of years ago, and Zuckerberg said, hey, you know what? We're going to cut back a bit on the metaverse. $600 later, investors are very pleased, and he continues to cut back on the metaverse. That is, what investors want to see because they don't trust the metaverse. They do, however, as we've seen, really love AI. So his capital spending on AI is something they like to see. The lawsuits are interesting. I've been doing stories on them. The idea that Section 230 may be damaged goods, to say the least, right now is interesting. I don't know that investors are factoring that into Meta's stock price just yet, but they may have to if the lawsuits cause any sort of a breakup or a downturn in the social media world, that is Instagram and WhatsApp. But so far, we haven't seen that. We've just seen the threats, and those have been around for a long time.
But it's a reminder, if these cases are true, and the case can be actually made about this. This is a reminder that Mark Zuckerberg will, if not constrained, will push the limits on legality and behavior and social damage. It's always been there, and whenever you think that he's grown his hair long and curly and he's a normal guy, you get this, and I wonder how we all continue to trust that he's going to do the right thing when all the evidence is otherwise.
I would push back on that and say people do not trust him, and they have not trusted him since the beginning, and he has done nothing worthy of trust. And so, no, that trust does not exist. Don't confuse that with why people are buying his company's stock. He's printing money. He's a great businessman, but no, people don't trust him.
but there's still hundreds of millions of people on Facebook. So,
Yes.
there's something's going on. It seems like a contradiction, and I don't know how to square that circle. Maybe you do.
Um, I think the people that are on social media and using it a lot get something out of it, whether it's adults who get a little bit out of it because they get to post pictures of their vacation or whatever, or young people who really do get a lot out of it because of the social interaction and all that. Um, and yeah, there's some danger there, and that's why we have these lawsuits, and those are legitimate cases that should be heard and listened to. But we're in a world where, whether or not people find it addictive, social media is part of the parlance of the language of what we do. And it's hard to not be on at least some part of social media.
Yeah.
But at the same time, uh, you know, it's like anything. You've got to take care, and you've got to make sure you're not too far invested or giving away too much of your private data, because that will come back to bite you. And these are lessons that we need to learn from this current era of
Yeah.
social media dominance, of how to use it if we want to, but on our own terms and without giving away the store that is our own private data.
So we deal with the devil, and so our children's children can be taken care of, be protected.
I mean, our own children, and yeah, perhaps their children too. It's an ongoing thing that is not going to go away anytime soon, but it has taught me as a parent to be more involved with social media, and my kids, and to teach them about the problems and the good things, but also, hey, look, here's how you can interact with these things, but click these few things so that they don't know where you are or who you are, and stuff like that. And that's important too. That's a skill as well.
Okay, real quick, Amazon is laying off about 16,000 corporate workers. I'm sure that's the effect of AI. You
Yes,
agree?
they've admitted it. They admit it.
Yeah. And
And robots.
this is what we predict was coming, that who needs knowledge workers, paper pushers, when you've got AI to do it for you and more accurate. Okay, finally, Tesla. Tesla has just suffered, well, their annual profit is the worst smallest since the pandemic. But as always, Elon talks big. And also they're going to kill two of the product models, arguably the most popular ones. No?
No, no. They haven't been popular for a while. You're talking about the X and the S. Revolutionary. The S was what made EVs palatable. Look, it's a good-looking sedan that can get you far. It was a crucial car
I
in the world of
always
EVs.
like the looks of it.
Yes, and the X, another beautiful gull wing thing that popularized SUVs and showed that, hey, SUVs can be, rugged and take you places and hold a whole family. These are very important cars, but they haven't sold much in years, and I don't think they should go away. To me, as you know, the more EVs, the better. But I understand why they're not profit leaders anymore. They just don't sell much of them.
Well, as a Tesla owner, does it concern you that your model might be next?
Um, no, only because whatever Tesla does, it's going to do. The news to me when it comes to EVs is that there are so many out there. You're starting to see fewer Model S's because of cars like the Lucid Air. You're starting to see fewer Model X's because of the Rivians. So competition is important. Teslas are selling less because of the competition. That's too bad. I want them to get better and come up with more cars. I want 15
Well, Silicon
EVs for
Valley
each
has
company to compete.
more Teslas than any place on Earth, is my understanding, more per capita than any place
Yeah.
on Earth.
Yes, there are a ton of them out there, and there will continue to be. Model 3 still sells very well. The Model Y is the best-selling car. I don't
Yeah.
think the Cybertruck is a big seller, but you still see a lot of them in the Bay Area. But Musk is clearly saying cars are taking, if you'll excuse this, a backseat to robots and automation, and that's what he wants to see. And any company that's like, hey, we're going to make less money because we're slowing down our core business to do something very futuristic, would normally see its stock price drop. Tesla and Musk, different animals with different audiences.
They had a good week, even with the lower profits. They had a good week, and part of it's the promise. Elon always makes promises. He usually comes through with them of the taxis. The market seems to be appreciating that, and there's kind of a glow coming from SpaceX that seems to be affecting the value of all his, stocks and ownership.
Well, that's another rumor, is that he may merge them all together somehow and then take SpaceX public, and goodness, that's going to be gigantic.
I hope so. I mean, he's getting close. There's reports that inside their plans for SpaceX, they're going to get to Mars soon, and that's exciting. Having watched the moon landing and assumed that I was going to see this stuff all my life, it's good now that it's 50 years later that I may actually see one of the promises finally come true. I'd love to see the first man or woman walking on Mars.
That, I think, is going to take a while, but we are going back to the moon. Apparently, it was just up at NASA Ames talking about that. So
yeah, NASA.
Well, with Artemis.
We'll see with NASA with their new leader. Autonomous driving. What's the status of that in California? There was some talk about putting a moratorium on it for a while and all of that. Meanwhile, a guy I know got in a car in Santa Monica and never touched a steering wheel until he pulled up into his driveway in Mountain View. And he was on phone calls. He was on a couple phone calls with me. And he said the thing drove better than he could, doing lane changes and mergers and all of that. It stopped better than it recognized a need to stop long before he would have. He loved it, and he has complete trust in it. Is there a backlash now against autonomous, drivers?
Among some, you occasionally see people attacking a Waymo, even in San Francisco. But that said, there are many more of them this month than there were last month, and certainly this year than last year. And now other companies, including Tesla, are trying to get into the act, and Zoox, which is owned by Amazon. So I would say the driverless revolution, while not entirely here, is making big strides. And it's clearly something that every car company is trying to get into. And Tesla is trying to change, from letting you drive to letting it drive.
Haven't you noticed there's been a bit of a backlash all of a sudden against this?
Yes, but not all of a sudden. This has been...
It's been building, but you would have thought that we would have gotten past that now.
I don't think we will. I mean, these are jobs on the line. These are people that are concerned that technology is taking over and robots are taking over and taking jobs. And there's no way that people are going to just stop and shrug their shoulders and say, well, I guess this is how we get around now. They're worried about the next level. Will there be taxi drivers? Will there be truck drivers in the future? These are big concerns because there are a lot of people whose living depends on this stuff.
Well, it looks like an unstoppable technology. And, you can try to feather bed it by insisting that there be a taxi driver in the taxi that's being autonomously driven. But I think we're already past that. And I think it's just going to be generational change, that there won't be any more demand for truck drivers, so you won't go to truck driving school, trade school. And, taxi drivers are already being supplanted all over the United States. I think it's just going to take 20 years and people won't think about it, won't be fighting for it anymore.
Right, but that's 20 years from now. They are fighting now, and that's where the backlash is. It's over jobs and concerns that jobs are being lost.
Okay, well, would you buy Waymo stock, even though you and I don't can't buy stock. Would you buy Waymo? I've only heard good reviews about Waymo.
Right. Yeah, if I was an investor, I'm not, but if I was, I think Waymo is one of those companies of the future that is going to, by virtue of its first mover status, really do well. Although we don't yet know, because it's not public, the mechanics of it, the business, the accounting of it yet. We don't know if it's making money or if it's losing money because it costs so much to put those cars into the street.
Well, they're going to have to go public sometime pretty soon if Musk is going to start rolling out his own robo-taxis. They're going to need money to fight that.
Well, they're backed by Google, which is the second most valuable company in the world as we speak.
Yeah,
so
but Google, Google has money to spend in all sorts of different places. They may have to, spin out and be wholly owned, or at least majority owned by Google, and then start raising real money.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's it for now, folks. You can find us on Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. You can see Scott on Facebook and X, and of course, almost every weeknight on NBC Bay Area. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.